Okay, we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and the only question is, what things does Paul say it is possible to do and not have love? The answers are in the first few verses here. He says it's possible to speak in the tongues of men and of angels. Verse 2 says you can have the gift of prophecy and fathom all mysteries and have all knowledge, even have faith to move mountains, but still have not love. Verse 3 says it's possible to give all that you possess to the poor and even surrender your body to be burned to the flames, but still not have love. And the point he's making here is that these things, which most of us Christians aspire to, all of us want to have more knowledge. We all want to have understanding of all mysteries. We wish that we could be to the point where we're willing to surrender all of our goods and feed the poor and even give our body to be martyrs. But these things we aspire to are not the end of themselves. These are not what we should be focusing on. We should not be trying to force ourselves to spend more time in prayer of itself as a goal, to say that now I've got to the point where I'm praying enough time. We shouldn't say we're trying to get to the point where we're giving enough to the church. So now we've made it to reach that mark. We've given enough to the church. We shouldn't be pushing towards these things as the end. They are not an end. These things ought to be the fruit of love. And love, it says in Romans 5, Paul says that the love of God is poured in our hearts or shed forth abroad in our hearts by the Holy Spirit. This is something that comes from the Spirit of God. John, in 1 John chapter 4, he says it this way: love is of God, and everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. That's in 1 John 4, verses 7 and 8. He says that the way to love, the way to have this love, it has to be by knowing God, who is the God of love, because God is love, he says. And this is where our emphasis should be. Primarily, we need to be putting an emphasis on knowing God, trying to understand who he is, trying to understand how he would deal with the situations that we face. How would God respond to a frustrating coworker? How would God respond to troubles in his family? How would God respond to tragedies in life? How would God respond to successes and victories? What would God's response be? Studying his word, studying his character, particularly as it's shown most clearly in the image of God in Jesus. In learning these things, we grow in our knowledge of God. We know God, and having this knowledge of him, then asking him for the power of his Holy Spirit to pour his love into our heart. Through that means we obtain this love. And all of these other things are the fruit of that love. But again, we need to make sure that our focus is we're not being distracted on trying to get the fruit without the root, without getting the love that brings forth, that causes these fruit in our life. So again, hopefully we won't fall in the trap that Paul is warning against here, that we're not going after these things without having love.